is justice? What is mercy? Where's the sacred and the holy? In this world full of choices, where's the truth in all the voices? Give me an answer. Don't waste my time. Tell it to me straight. The truth is getting hard to find. I have objections to what I've learned. I have questions and concerns. Give me an answer.
What's the evidence that the purpose of your life is to make money? Why have you made that decision to define the purpose of your life is to make money?
Why have I made that?
Yeah, what's the evidence that the purpose of a life like yours is to make money?
Society has dictated that you can make money and get a good job.
Okay, good. Why have you trusted society to tell you the purpose
Because
of your
I'm a
life is to make
conformist.
money? Because what?
Because I'm a conformist.
Okay, why have you made the decision to conform to a particular society that says the purpose of your existence is to make money? Do you have faith?
In faith in what? In society?
Your society.
Yes, society, because it's worked well.
Good.
And my
The
dad did
reason-
that, so I'll do what my dad did.
Good. The reason that I trust Jesus Christ is because he's more reliable than our society.
Okay. Whatever helps you sleep tonight.
No. It's a question of what's true.
But you also
I
have
think
to
the
interact
evidence
with
is
society.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, Jesus tells us how to react to society. But Jesus points out that he is more reliable than a society comprised of very finite, very fickle human beings. That's why putting my faith in God is a wiser decision, I feel, than putting my faith ultimately in people, ultimately in myself.
So how much do you think that Jesus overlaps with society? Does it completely polar ends of the spectrum?
No, I think you've done a very good job. The contrast here is now, am I going to live for Christ or am I going to live for money? You have decided to live for money. I have decided to live for Christ. Now, the question is, does the evidence support your faith as being wise, or does the evidence support my faith as being wise? In other words, compare the two objects of our faith. Your faith is in money, making money. My faith is in Jesus Christ. Does the evidence point to money being a more reliable object of your faith, or does the evidence point to Jesus Christ being a more reliable object of your faith?
Okay. Money could go either way. It could be wiser to do that, and it could but you have no proof. You only have faith in that it's good to believe in Jesus Christ. You don't have faith in that it's
Exactly.
bad.
I cannot prove to you that Christ is the truth. You cannot prove to me that living for money is the truth. We both have faith.
I'm respecting you, but
And I'm respecting your faith, which is faith in money. My question to you is, what is the evidence that has convinced you that living for money is the good purpose for your life?
because it worked before I was born and it kept working, and so now I feel like it should work. Like, people have made or lived happy lives like that before, so why can't I do that now?
You can. But what's the evidence that making money is really the path to real life, to real happiness, to real joy? You really believe that?
What's the evidence for yours?
Well, the evidence for me is Jesus Christ lived an amazing life, the type of life that in my
Okay,
best
so you want to
moments,
live the life that Jesus Christ lived. Is that what you're saying?
I respect his life very, very much. I've tried to live that type of life and I have failed. I've blown it. But the way he lived, gosh, in my best moments, I wish I could live that type of life. Secondly, I read his ethical teachings, the Sermon on the Mount, and lo and behold, I begin to realize that he's right. People are more important than money. And he says that in the Sermon on the Mount. Not only are people more important than money, knowing God is more important than money. That makes a lot of sense if I think about it.
Can I say something?
Sure.
If you needed a guy that lived however many years, thousands of years ago, to tell you that you need to be nice to people, that people are more important than money, then you're crazy.
Well, then why did you tell me right now that the
Because
purpose
I
of
can
your
live-
life is to live for money?
I can live for money, but I also don't need a book to tell me to be nice to people.
You
I
dug
don't
your
need-
own
I
hole
don't-
there, sir. Holy smokes.
I can live for money. I can also be nice to people. Like, I can also
Good.
value people. I don't need somebody to tell me that, and I don't need all of Christianity to tell me that I need to be nice to people.
Yeah, I know you don't need that.
Then
But you
you're-
see, you've made a decision to say that the purpose of my life is to live for money. Now, Christ
well, obviously
contradicts
I'm not a
you.
charity worker,
And
so I'm not
Christ-
going to be helping people.
Christ says the purpose of life is not to live for money. The purpose of life is to love God and to love people. Now, it's tempting to live for money. But if you think about it more deeply, you're going to begin to realize, you know, real joy, real fulfillment in life does not come from piling up the stock portfolio.
Yeah.
It comes from relationships with people. So there must be more to life than simply making money. Making money is an important thing, but there's got to be more than that, something deeper than that.
You're assuming that everybody that makes money is evil.
No, I'm not.
You just said that. You're saying.
No, I did not.
Well, okay. Well, you said
I'm
that.
saying it's
since I want to
emptiness
make money, I
ultimately.
won't love people. That's what you just
No,
said.
I did not. I said to love people according to Christ is more important than loving money. That's all we're saying.
And then you just said you love money. To me.
No, I said you told me the purpose of my life is to make money. And I'm saying you're selling yourself too cheaply, sir. According to Christ, the purpose of your life is not to make money. The purpose of your life is to love God, to serve God, and to love and serve people.
How do we come to knowledge of God?
A lot of different ways. Experience, reason, God's Spirit drawing us to Him.
How do we talk about God? Do we use words like I've heard you use, such as omnipresent, omniscient, things like this?
We can if we choose to.
Would it be an appropriate thing to do? Terms that are human characteristics, thus augmented. Because my question for everybody is an ancient question, which is if goats had hands and could draw as we have hands and can draw, would they not draw goat gods? Do we make our gods men? Do we make our gods women? Or more specifically men, in that we're constantly using he to describe our God. A male God and a male Christ.
Jesus Christ did not assert male superiority. The Bible does
No,
not.
I'm not taking that.
Sir, can I answer you or not? You're gonna.
You may,
know,
you may.
You talk, and then when you're finished, I'll answer you. Okay?
Okay. Well, my last question in that series, because I'd like to give you a lot to meditate on rather than just give you a single line. Why should I choose Christ as opposed to other very delightful ironists, literary ironists such as Socrates? Can I not yell out, "Ho Socrates theos"? Because I do read the Bible and I look at the Greek, so I know what the source material is.
Good.
Go ahead. Tell me your thoughts.
On Socrates versus Jesus?
No, well, there was a line of questions that you can approach.
Yeah, you asked a lot of questions, so I'll take the last one, all right?
All right.
The reason that I think it's very wise to trust Christ as opposed to Socrates is that although Socrates was a very wise man and had an incredible ability to think and have intelligent discourse, he died and he's dead and gone. But 3 days after Christ died, he rose from the dead. And over a period of 40 days, he appeared to over 500 people who saw him risen from the dead. And this Jesus said, "I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live, even though he dies." So therefore, because Christ rose from the dead, the evidence is he is reliable and trustworthy in a way that Socrates is not.
All right. Why should I choose either one? You spoke of human relationships. Hear me out. And that it is relationships that are so important. Why need God when I have all these beautiful people? Why need God when I have all these loving people? Why need God when I have all these kind people? Where is God located with his extra human characteristics among all these kind, loving, beautiful people?
Because when you enjoy kind, loving, beautiful people, it would behoove you to ask the question, where do these kind, wonderful, beautiful people come from? And I think the evidence is that life comes from life, not from non-life. Therefore, to thank the God who gave you your life, to thank the God who gave you wonderful people to relate to and to love, would be a very wise move to thank God for all the gifts he's given you in the form of other people, in the form of your life. And then secondly, if you really do enjoy relationships, a relationship with God would be pretty exciting if it was possible.
If God is a conscious thing, we're talking about first causes now. We're saying life comes from life, but if we take a line, how do I know that God is a conscious being, that it's not a happening? We like to use the word creation because it presupposes there's a creator. The very word in its etymology has agency. But if we say a happening, that man is a happening, or that life is a happening, how do we talk about a conscious being without making a logical fallacy?
In my observation of the earth that I live on, design demands a designer. Complex design demands an intelligent mind. Not a happening, but a mind. And therefore, I am convinced that there is an intelligent mind behind this universe because of the complex design that I see around me. That's how I get to believe that God exists.
And were I to use those words in my thoughts, I would definitely agree with you also. But the thing is, as I said, words like creation or design presuppose creators and designers. And and the thing about it, though, is that we can use other words to describe these things, such as happening, such as occurrences. And since you've already conceded through what you've said that knowledge of God comes after experience with the world, it comes a posteriori, then we are assessing things that are around us using earthly terms, using different kinds of reassessments, additions, stretchings, augmentations. I don't see how any knowledge of God is possible. It seems as though we know nothing and can know nothing, but can speculate based on our own desires.
No. And all the relationships that I have with people are because people have opened up and revealed to me their name, their character, their personality. And that's the way I've developed friendships. And I've opened up and I've revealed my name and my personality. And we've enjoyed getting to know each other.
Right.
Similarly, the only way I'm going to get to know God is if God opens up and reveals God's personality, God's name, God's likes and dislikes. That is exactly who Jesus is. Jesus claims to be God opening up and revealing his name, his personality, his likes, his dislikes. And that's the way that I begin to get to know God, in the same way that I get to know people. It involves revelation. We all have to open up and reveal who we are. If we lie to each other, we'll never have a significant relationship. We have to open up, speak the truth to each other about who we are, and then we can begin to enjoy each other and build relationships of integrity, of honesty, of sincerity. The same thing is true with God.
I'm glad you
If
phrased
God
it.
has opened up and revealed himself in a way that I, with my finite mind, can understand, then it's possible for me to know God. And that's exactly what Jesus claimed.
I'm glad you phrased it that way, but then I must posit the question, what is God then but a list of attributes derived from other men, derived from other women?
I did not make up Jesus. I did not make up God. Jesus was a real person who lived long before I was ever born and before I ever began to suck wind. And Jesus wasn't made up by some fancy writers or somebody's creative imagination. Jesus really lived, really taught, really died, really rose from the dead. So I got to deal with this Jesus. He's either a quack with delusions of deity, or else he is who he claimed to be. God opening up and revealing his love for all of us.
To me, if you look at it from like a third person view, it's basically a person thinking that he's talking to another person. But there's no communication when one person talks to another person and another person talks back or communicates back, right? But if this omnipotent being does not respond back, how do you know if it exists?
Okay, that gets back to the question of why I believe God exists, which is a very important question. I don't believe God exists because he's answered my prayers. Okay? I believe that God exists because the order and the design of the cosmos points to a designer. I believe that God exists because everything that has a beginning has a cause. The universe has a beginning, therefore the universe has to have a cause. I believe that God exists because the anthropic principle, life is balanced on a razor's edge. To try and argue that all this just happened by chance is absurd for me. I believe that God exists because the amount of information in the DNA of a single cell is so densely packed, it demands an intelligent mind. I believe that God exists because it's more reasonable to believe that life comes from life than it is to believe that life comes from non-life. I believe that God exists because I notice that human beings have this innate drive for meaning in life. The only way there can be real meaning in life is if God created us for a purpose. And this innate drive that I notice that we human beings have for meaning is best explained by the fact that we were created for a purpose. I believe that God exists because the evidence of a conscience that ties me into moral absolutes demands a moral lawgiver. I believe that God exists because I experience love. And if there is no God, love is simply a biochemical reaction. I'm sorry, my experience of reality is there's more to love than simply a biochemical reaction. I believe that God exists because I experience free will. And free will shows me that there's more to you and me than just a machine. We're human beings with a free will. That demands there be a God, a personal being, who creates us and gives us this free will. I believe that there's a God because I notice that all human beings, myself included, have a drive for life after death. The only way there can be life after death is if there is some type of God who's able to give us this life after death. So those are 10 pieces of evidence that point to God's existence. That's why I believe God exists, for those 10 reasons.
What I'm hearing from you is more that there are certain points in your debate, in your you say answers that are incorrect. And so trying to correct them, I come up here to ask you more questions to get better answers.
Good. So you're a fellow searcher after truth. You're convinced that much of what I'm saying is false. And so therefore you want to challenge me to think more clearly. I think that's fantastic. I think that's great. Now, do you think that anything that I've said about why I believe in God, the evidence for the existence of God, makes any sense to you?
Yeah, of course. 'Cause
Well,
some of
good.
the things
Makes some
I
sense.
believe for, like creationism and intelligent design, I do believe in that. However, just having that pointing toward a certain God that's already known, like the Christian God, I don't believe. I do believe that there is intelligent being,
Uh-huh.
but I do not believe that it's God.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Well, then, who's the intelligent being you believe created this world?
That's what we're searching for.
Okay, so you're just an intelligent being. Forget about Christ, forget about God. Okay. If Jesus rose from the dead, don't you think that points to him being a credible source of information about this intelligent being?
That is not, that's two different topics. We're talking about how there's an intelligent being who creates something, and then you're bringing up somebody who rose from the dead. Those are two different topics.
All right, well, obviously, Jesus claimed to be this intelligent being who created. And obviously, we're not just going to blindly believe it. So, does not the historical resurrection of Christ give him credibility when he claims to be this intelligent being who created the universe?
You say there is a guy, Jesus Christ, who rose from the dead several thousand years ago, and you just expect people to believe in that because people in a book said that it happened? See, that's what I don't understand. Because our day and age, most humans need to have physical evidence to believe in something. And looking at reading a book, just having blind faith does not work for everyone. So that's why when you have saying Jesus rose from the dead, so that proves that he is a God that created everything. It does not work for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Sir, I think you'd be a fool to have blind faith. So I'm right with you. Blind faith is not good. That's the way to get ripped off in life, to have blind faith. So I'm not saying put your faith in Christ blindly. I'm not saying accept the Bible blindly and just say, I believe, whatever it says. But instead, you better be open to the possibility of historical knowledge. Historical knowledge is not based on the repeatability of an experiment. Historical knowledge is based on the trustworthiness of eyewitness testimony. You better come up with some tests that you use to determine whether a document is historically reliable or not. For myself, I've got 4. Internal consistency, literary style, archaeological evidence, and manuscript evidence. And the New Testament, sir, passes those tests with flying colors. You come up with your test that you use to determine historical reliability. Put the New Testament through those tests, and I'm convinced it's going to come off with flying colors.
They do.
Good.
I know they do.
Great. So then
So
simply
does
read the
Quran.
Gospels as history and ask yourself, does the historical evidence point to Christ being the type of person I can trust or not? It's that simple. It's not blind faith. I trust Jesus Christ because the historical evidence is he lived a sinless life, he taught amazing ethical teachings, he died forgiving his enemies, and he rose from the dead. And that's not blind faith, but saying, this is what the historical evidence points to. Because the evidence is Christ is credible, I trust him.
We have no way to actually point a moral value. Reason alone cannot uncover values. Values and reasons, values and facts are two entirely different things. Values are things that we have to come to ourselves. They're subjective. And so, as horrendous as it may be, I have to defend the position that there is nothing morally, objectively wrong with killing innocents. However, I may disagree with it completely myself because I value human life, because that is important to me. I cannot say in the objective, universal, infinite sense there's anything wrong with killing innocents.
Good. You are being intellectually consistent with your atheistic presupposition,
I'm not atheistic.
or agnostic, whatever you are. All right? And I respect your consistency. You're absolutely right. If you're agnostic or if you're atheist, you have to acknowledge there is nothing objectively wrong with slaughtering innocent children. Very good. Now live it out.
No, I don't want to.
Why
I don't
not?
wanna do this.
If you believe it's true, why don't you want to live it out?
No.
It doesn't say you have to. It doesn't say you have to. I'm not saying you have to murder kids. But what you do have to do is you have to live your life as if he chooses to murder innocent kids. It's not wrong. It's what he chooses.
Well, how about this? If he decides to murder innocent kids, you and I, not saying that he's wrong, but we agree to get him out of the way. Because there's nothing wrong with that either.
Sure.
So we go ahead and put him in some sort of like, I don't know, isolation unit, just get him away from people so
Yeah.
he can learn. So he can, through a path of maturity
Right?
and understanding, come to compassion. And through our acceptance of him, through us not judging him, through us being there to rehabilitate him. So why can we not do that? And ultimately, no one's going to want to kill anybody because it's not in the human heart.
You see, I think you've just shown exactly why your position is so untenable.
Okay.
You said, let's not judge him, but let's rehabilitate him.
No.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said.
All right, that
You
is-
said,
that's-
let's
that
not
is
judge
exactly
him,
what I said.
but let's
That's not-
rehabilitate him. Sir, you've got to make a judgment. Like it or not, living in this world, you have to make judgment calls. Now, you better not be judgmental and self-righteous with a superiority chip on your shoulder, but you're going to have to make those judgments. You're right, which shows you can't live out your relativism.
No.
It is impossible to live out moral relativism. Often people say to me, Cliff, you insist that Jesus Christ is the truth. But how can you honestly make that claim in light of the fact that you have not tried all the alternatives? Fascinating. Jesus Christ is different from every other major religious figure in that Christ taught that you and I are not to build a highway to God. Instead, God has built a highway to himself. Jesus Christ made the audacious claim not to be a human being figuring out how to get to God in heaven. Instead, Jesus Christ claimed to be God building a highway to himself. That is qualitatively different from every major world religion. Nobody made that claim and had any type of evidence to back it up. Jesus Christ did. The statement, Cliff, how can you be so sure that Jesus Christ is the truth? You have not tried all the alternatives, is basically making a statement that, Cliff, it's really your environment that has taught you to be a follower of Christ. If that's true, is it not equally true, my skeptical friend, that your environment predisposed you to be a skeptic? If it's true that you and I are not capable of being intellectually neutral, if we're just controlled by our prejudices, by the environment in which we grew up, then isn't it equally true that an atheist or an agnostic is simply the product of their environment? Obviously, I agree that our environments have a profound influence on us. But I insist that you and I have a free will. We have been created in the image of God. That does not mean that we physically resemble God, but one of the gifts that God has given us is a free will. You make your mind up, I make my mind up. Yes, our genetic makeup influences us. Yes, our environment influences us. But we still have an ability to choose. What an incredibly precious gift from God. Yes, all of our environments affect us. No, you are not simply the sum total of the influences of your environment. Neither am I. You're a human being with a rational mind, with a free will, with a conscience, and that is why we hold each other responsible for the decisions that we make. Ah, Cliff, you say that Jesus is the truth. How can you maintain that in light of the fact that you have never experienced all the religious alternatives? That statement, although it appears to be an honest search for truth, is actually a statement that truth is unknowable. And I strongly disagree with that. God has given you and me rational minds. And by not dabbling in the irrational, but by being committed to the reasonable, by being committed to using our emotions, our wills, our intellects in a responsible way, you and I can get in touch with reality. The idea that because I have not experienced all the alternatives, therefore I cannot experience truth, is totally false. There is no branch of learning, no branch of knowledge where you experience or study all the alternatives. Therefore, that statement, unless you've experienced all the religious alternatives, you can't trust Christ seriously, is fallacious. It's totally wrong. If I am looking for a purple fish, and if one day I find a purple fish, I don't have to keep on looking for purple fish. If I, as a human being, am searching for God and I find God in Jesus Christ, I don't have to keep on checking out all the different alternatives. Jesus made the incredible claim, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. The evidence, the hard historical facts of his lifestyle, the way he treated people, the content of his ethical teachings, like do unto others as you would have them do unto you, like if someone strikes you on the right cheek, turn to them the other also, like you've heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemies. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. The evidence of his ethical teaching, the evidence of the way he died, nailed to a wooden crossbeam, he forgave his enemies. But most importantly, the evidence of the way he rose from the dead clearly points to Jesus Christ being more than just a megalomaniac, being more than just a good philosopher or a fine ethicist. That evidence of his life, teachings, death, and resurrection points to his claim to be God in human form as being true, as being accurate. And it is my experience, as a result of putting my faith in Jesus Christ, that he is totally trustworthy, 100% reliable. You can trust in Christ. You have some type of faith in someone or something. We all do. Jesus Christ is more reliable than any of the alternatives. Put your faith and trust in him. Open up your life and allow his grace, his forgiveness, his love, and his truth to fill your soul. And Christ promises to all who trust in him eternal life in heaven. God bless you as you make that most important decision, as you put your faith in Jesus Christ.
Don't waste my time. Tell it to me straight. The truth is getting hard to find. I have objections to what I've learned. I have questions and concerns. Give me an answer. Where is justice? What is